My name is Tamara Wright, and I'm 28 years old. Imagine discovering on your 28th birthday that your entire family threw a surprise party for your sister. The Facebook caption read, "Celebrating the only daughter worth honoring." When I innocently commented, "Nice cake," my mother publicly replied, "At least someone deserves our effort." But here's what they didn't know. I'd been sitting on a document that would change everything. A document that proved my perfect doctor sister had been living a lie worth $50 million. Before I tell you how she went from penthouse to powerless in just 12 days, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Where are you watching from? Drop your city and local time below. I love knowing we're connected across the world at this very moment. Now, let me take you back to that birthday morning when everything started. I was scrolling through Facebook with my morning coffee, expecting maybe a text or two. What I found instead would set in motion the most painful yet liberating 2 weeks of my life. The notification popped up at 7:23 a.m. Summer Wright added 47 photos to the album. Surprise party for our star. My thumb hovered over it. Mom never posted photos of me, ever. In her last 100 posts, I appeared exactly twice, both times cropped halfway out of frame at Yvonne's medical school graduation. I clicked. The first photo hit like ice water. There was my entire family. Mom, Yvonne, aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't seen in years, gathered around a 3-tier cake, the kind with fondant roses and gold leaf, the kind that costs more than my monthly car payment. Yvonne stood in the center, glowing in a designer dress I recognized from Nordstrom's window, the one I'd admired last week before remembering I needed new work shoes instead. Yesterday, March 15th, my actual birthday. I scrolled through each photo methodically. There was Uncle Richard, who hadn't returned my calls in 2 years. Cousin Jennifer, who couldn't make it to my MBA graduation. Even Mrs. Wilson from next door, who always asked Mom why I couldn't be more like Yvonne. The comments were already flooding in. She deserves all this and more. Finally, someone worth celebrating. Your real daughter makes you so proud. My coffee had gone cold. I set it down with steady hands and typed, "Nice cake." Within 30 seconds, Mom replied, "At least someone deserves our effort. Maybe if you'd chosen a real career like Yvonne's, you'd understand what achievement looks like." 17 likes on her comment. In less than a minute, I stared at those words. Real career. As if managing supply chain operations for 3 West Coast facilities was playing pretend. As if my Wharton MBA was a participation trophy. Yvonne chimed in. "Tamara, don't be bitter. Not everything is about you." 43 likes. I almost laughed. Nothing had ever been about me. Not my childhood piano recital where Mom left early for Yvonne's soccer practice. Not my valedictorian speech she missed for Yvonne's emergency, a bad grade on a quiz. Not even my own birth had been about me. Mom loved telling people how she went into labor during Yvonne's dance recital 2 years earlier and how she'd insisted on staying until Yvonne finished her routine. But none of them knew what I knew. None of them had any idea what was coming. Supply chain management. The question had haunted me for a decade. Every family dinner, every holiday gathering, every chance encounter with Mom's friends at Whole Foods. Why didn't you go to medical school like Yvonne? The truth? I'd gotten into Johns Hopkins on a full scholarship. The acceptance letter arrived the same day. Yvonne got waitlisted at a mid-tier state school. I watched Mom's face crumble as she read it. That night, she sat on Yvonne's bed for 3 hours, promising they'd figure something out, that Yvonne was meant to be a doctor. I withdrew my acceptance the next morning. I told everyone I changed my mind, that medicine wasn't for me. Mom never asked why. She was too relieved to question it. Yvonne got off the wait list 2 weeks later. It was meant to be, Mom said at dinner. Yvonne has the healing touch. Tamara's more practical. Practical. That's what I became. The practical one who worked 3 jobs through undergrad. The practical one who earned her MBA at night while working full-time. The practical one who nobody noticed had graduated some cum laude from Wharton. Because the ceremony conflicted with Yvonne's white coat ceremony. Tamara handles boxes. Yvonne would tell people at parties, I save lives. She wasn't wrong. I did handle boxes. Millions of them. My optimization algorithm saved our company $3.2 million last quarter. My vendor negotiations secured PPE for 17 hospitals during the pandemic shortage. But that wasn't a story worth telling at family dinners. The worst part? I'd made peace with it, or thought I had, until I saw that cake. That beautiful, expensive cake on my birthday for my sister was surrounded by my family who'd forgotten I existed. My phone buzzed. Another Facebook notification. Mom had tagged Yvonne in a new post. So blessed to have a daughter who makes us proud every single day. No, I thought you were blessed to have 2 daughters. You just see one. The Mercedes-Benz C-Class still gleamed in Yvonne's driveway. Mom and Dad's graduation gift to her. A $45,000 investment in her future. The red bow from 3 years ago had long since disappeared, but I remembered it perfectly. Remembered standing in the rain, watching them hand her the keys while I clutched my own graduation announcement, the one they'd forgotten to attend. Doctors need reliable transportation, Dad said. Though Yvonne wouldn't start residency for another year. My graduation gift? A $50 Amazon card and a text saying, Congrats, I'd bought my own car, a 2012 Honda Civic with 90,000 miles, using savings from the job I'd worked since sophomore year. Mom had wrinkled her nose when she saw it. Well, it's practical, just like you. There it was again. Practical. But the favoritism went deeper than gifts. Yvonne lived rent-free in a downtown penthouse. I'd co-signed the lease because her credit was wrecked from shopping sprees. Mom encouraged. Doctors need to look successful, Mom always said, slipping Yvonne another credit card. Meanwhile, I'd been paying my own rent since 18. When I'd asked for help during a rough patch after college, just a 3-month loan while starting my job, Mom had sighed. Tamara, you need to learn independence. Yvonne has medical school stress. What stress do you have counting boxes? The irony? Yvonne hadn't paid a bill in her life. Not the Mercedes payments. Mom handled it. Not her student loans. Dad's investment. Not even her own phone bill, still on the family plan at 26. And now she was supposedly running Grandpa's company, Wright Pharmaceuticals, the company he'd built from nothing, the company worth $50 million, the company whose board meetings Yvonne had never attended, whose financial statements she couldn't read, whose supply chain she called boring logistics stuff. Tamara's department. If only they knew what Tamara's department was about to do. 3 years ago, Grandpa Kevin's study, the smell of his pipe tobacco still clinging to leather-bound books. Tamara, come here. Shut the door. He was dying. We both knew it, though nobody said the word. The cancer had taken 40 pounds off his frame, but his eyes remained sharp. Engineer's eyes, eyes that saw through. "Your sister was here yesterday," he said. "Spent 10 minutes talking about herself, then asked about the will." I said nothing. Yvonne's visits always had agendas. "Your mother thinks I don't notice things." He pulled out an envelope from his desk drawer, thick, legalized. "She thinks I don't know about the Hopkins scholarship, about what you gave up." My throat tightened. Nobody knew about Hopkins. "I've been watching you, Tamara. The quiet one, the practical one." He said the word like it tasted bitter. "You know what's practical? Building a pharmaceutical empire from a garage. That's what I did. And you have my brain. Yvonne has your mother's mouth." He pressed the envelope into my hands. "Promise me something. Don't open this until you need to. You'll know when." "Grandpa, promise." "I promise." He died 6 days later. Yvonne gave a beautiful eulogy about inheriting his legacy. I sat in the back row, the envelope burning in my purse. As CEO of Wright Pharmaceuticals, I'm proud to announce our new anxiety medication has passed phase 3 trials. Yvonne's LinkedIn post had 247 likes. The comments flooded in. "Congratulations, inspiration. Your grandfather would be so proud." She'd changed her profile title the day after Grandpa's funeral. CEO at Wright Pharmaceuticals, MD candidate, healthcare visionary, CEO of a $50 million company at 26, without a business degree, without ever attending a board meeting, without even knowing what phase 3 trials actually meant. I knew, because I'd asked her once casually at dinner. "Oh, it's when the drug is basically ready," she'd said, waving her fork. "The science stuff is handled by the team. Phase 3 trials take 4 years minimum. They involve thousands of patients. They cost millions. But sure, Yvonne, the science stuff, the real kicker." I'd seen the incorporation documents, Yvonne's signature as CEO, dated 1 week after Grandpa's death. The only problem was that Grandpa had been very specific about succession in the original bylaws. The CEO had to be appointed by the board with unanimous consent after reviewing qualifications. There had been no board meeting. I would know. I was supposed to be notified as a minority shareholder, a tiny detail Mom didn't know about. Grandpa had gifted me 2% of shares on my 18th birthday. For the quiet one, the card had said. But Yvonne's signature was there, bold and looping, along with Mom's as witness. I pulled up another document on my laptop, a bank statement showing a transfer of $500,000 from Wright Pharmaceuticals to EMI Holdings, LLC, Yvonne's personal company, created 3 days after Grandpa's funeral. Embezzlement was such an ugly word, but accurate. My phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Wright, this is Carlos Sierra from Sierra and Associates. I was your grandfather's personal attorney." My pulse quickened. "Mr. Sierra, I believe it's time we discussed your grandfather's actual wishes, the real ones, not the fabrication your sister has been parading around." I looked at the envelope in my desk drawer, still sealed, still waiting. "I'm listening." "Your sister's announcement about the product launch next week, the one with 200 investors, I think that would be the perfect venue for some clarification." The Facebook photo stared at me from my laptop screen, my family celebrating the only daughter worth honoring. "Yes," I said, "I think it would." The text from Yvonne arrived at midnight. "Need you to resign the lease guarantee. Landlord's being a dick about some paperwork." The penthouse, of course, $8,000 a month for a 2-bedroom overlooking the harbor. When Yvonne had begged me to co-sign 3 years ago, she'd sworn it was temporary, just until my credit improved, 6 months max. That was 36 months ago. I pulled up my banking app. There it was. Every month, the automatic notification that Yvonne Wright's rent had been processed against my guarantee. She'd been late 17 times. Each late payment dinged my credit. Each time I'd covered it to protect my score, and Yvonne would promise to pay me back. Total owed, $23,500. Can't you just sign it? Another text. I'm so stressed with the product launch. The product launch, where she'd play CEO in front of 200 investors who didn't know she'd never read a P&L statement, who didn't know the chief scientist did all the actual work while Yvonne took selfies in a lab coat she'd bought on Amazon. I opened my email. 3 messages from the landlord over the past month, all forwarded to spam by Yvonne's email filter I'd helped her set up. The subject lines grew increasingly urgent. Concerns about lease renewal. Urgent verification needed. Final notice. Guarantor confirmation required. The last one spelled it out clearly. Without renewed guarantee documentation by March 30th, the lease would terminate 10 days from now. Yvonne had no idea she'd been too busy posting inspirational quotes about female CEOs breaking barriers to check her spam folder. Another memory surfaced last month. Mom calling me selfish for not lending Yvonne money for a Cancun trip. She works so hard as CEO. You sit at a desk. The least you could do is help your sister relax. I'd said no. Mom didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. But the lease was different. My name was legally bound to it. My credit is on the line. My financial future is tied to Yvonne's shopping addiction and Mom's enabling. Mr. Sierra's words echoed, the perfect venue for clarification. I texted Yvonne back, I'll handle it. OMG, thank you. You're the best. Even if Mom thinks you're jealous of me. I set my phone down, opened the drawer, touched the envelope. Not yet, but soon. Very soon. Have you ever been the invisible child in your own family? I know exactly how that feels. Watching everyone celebrate someone else on your birthday, while you're erased from the narrative. But sometimes our silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. If this story is resonating with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that their time is coming. Drop a comment with the word justice if you want to know what happened when the truth finally came out. Now, let me tell you about the moment I decided enough was enough. The Facebook comments kept coming. I watched them pile up under Mom's post, each one a small knife. I typed, "Happy birthday to me, I guess." Yvonne responded in seconds. OMG. Tamara, not everything is about you. Mom. Tamara, please don't make a scene. This was Yvonne's day. My day. My birthday. Yvonne's day. I typed back, it was literally my birthday yesterday. Mom, we forgot. We were busy planning something special for someone who deserved it. Deserved it. There it was, public, permanent, screenshot worthy. Aunt Linda chimed in, Summer's right. Yvonne's achievements deserve recognition. Yvonne, Tamara, maybe if you'd done something worth celebrating. I stared at the screen. My family, publicly discussing my worthlessness. 247 people watching. Former classmates, colleagues, and my boss. I typed slowly, deliberately. You're right. Yvonne deserves exactly what's coming to her. Mom, what's that supposed to mean? Nothing. Enjoy the cake while you can. Yvonne, is that a threat? Mom, she's threatening me. Mom! Tamara, you're embarrassing yourself as usual. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my contacts and scrolled to see Sierra Carlos. His office would be closed, but he'd said to call any time, that the moment I was ready, he'd be waiting. The phone rang once. Miss Wright, I've been expecting your call. How did you? Your grandfather predicted this. He said you'd call when they finally pushed too far, when they finally made you realize what he always knew, which was that nice doesn't mean weak, that quiet doesn't mean powerless, and that patience is just choosing the perfect moment to strike. I looked at the Facebook thread, 312 comments now. My entire extended family and social circle witnessed my humiliation. The product launch, I said, March 27th. I'll have everything ready. Mr. Sierra, they just celebrated my sister on my birthday. By March 28th, Miss Wright, she'll remember your birthday for the rest of her life. Your grandfather knew this would happen. Sierra said he documented everything. Every conversation with your mother about the will, every time Yvonne asked about money, every single red flag. I pulled out the envelope still sealed. He gave me this 3 years ago, said I'd know when to open it. That's a copy. I have the originals in my safe. Miss Wright, your grandfather's real will names you as sole beneficiary, not Yvonne, not your mother. You. The room spun. But Yvonne's been acting as CEO for 3 years illegally. The document she's been waving around is forged. Your mother helped her. We have the security footage from the office building showing them entering my firm after hours. They used a master key your mother stole from your grandfather's desk. You've known for 3 years. Your grandfather's instructions were specific. Wait until you were ready, until you understood that being family doesn't mean accepting abuse, that love doesn't require you to light yourself on fire to keep others warm. I thought about the Hopkins scholarship, the Mercedes I'd never have, and the birthday cake I'd never get. What do you need from me? Just show up to the product launch and sit in the audience. When Yvonne starts talking about her inheritance, about carrying on your grandfather's legacy, I'll handle the rest and the lease. Sierra chuckled. I'd hold off on renewing that guarantee, Miss Wright. I hung up, opened my laptop, and typed a single email to Yvonne's landlord. Please process all future correspondence regarding the lease directly with the tenant. I will not be renewing my guarantee and sending it on March 27th. The Ritz-Carlton has 200 investors about to witness history. Sierra had been meticulous. Wear something professional but understated. You want to look like what you are, the real CEO, not trying to prove anything. I chose my navy suit, the one from Nordstrom Rack, not Nordstrom, the one that fit perfectly because I'd had it tailored with my own money. Where will you be? I asked. I'll enter at exactly 11:47 a.m. Yvonne's presentation starts at 11:30. She'll be deep into her speech about inheriting her grandfather's vision when I arrive. With the documents, with everything, the real will, the security footage, the forensic handwriting analysis that proves the forgery, the bank records showing the embezzlement. I thought about Yvonne's LinkedIn posts, her Instagram stories from the company offices, the interviews she'd given about being a young female CEO breaking barriers. "She's going to be destroyed," I said. She destroyed herself the moment she forged those documents. "You're just revealing the truth, and Mom, accessory to fraud. The DA's office is already interested." I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just clarity. "Mr. Sierra, why did grandfather wait? Why not just make it clear in the will?" "He did make it clear, but he knew your mother would try something, so he set a trap. Let them commit the crime, document everything, then let you decide when to spring it." 12 days, I said. "In 12 days, everything changes." "No, Miss Wright. Everything changes the moment you walk into that ballroom. Everything else is just paperwork." The memory hit me as I held the envelope. Grandpa's hands, still steady despite the cancer, guiding mine to his desk drawer that day. "Tamra, there's something else." He'd pulled out a second document. "This is a copy of my real will, the one filed with Sierra. Your mother doesn't know this version exists." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she's been pressuring me to change it. Wants everything to go to Yvonne. Says you're too simple to handle the responsibility." Simple. Another variation of practical. "But here's what your mother doesn't understand," he continued. "I built this company by watching and observing. You know who else watches? You. You see everything, don't you?" I nodded. "Yvonne performed for me today. Talked about her vision for the company, used words she'd Googled 5 minutes before. But you've never asked me for anything, never performed, never pretended to care about the money." He'd opened another drawer. Inside were files, years of them. "Your supply chain optimization thesis from Wharton. I read it, implemented 2 of your strategies at Wright. Saved us $1.8 million last year alone." My breath caught. "How did you?" "I've been watching Tamra, the quiet one, the practical one, the one who gave up Hopkins so Yvonne wouldn't feel inferior." "You knew?" "I know everything, including what your mother and sister are planning. They think I'm too sick to notice them sneaking into my office, photographing documents, practicing my signature." He'd smiled then, a wolf smile. "So, I'm going to let them do it. Let them forge whatever they want after I'm gone. Let them think they've won. And then, when you're ready, Sierra will reveal everything." "Grandpa, I don't want." "You don't want revenge. I know this isn't revenge, Tamra. It's justice. There's a difference." Now, 3 years later, I finally understood what he meant. Revenge would be destroying them because they hurt me. Justice was simply revealing the truth they'd worked so hard to hide. Sierra's office smelled like old leather and justice. He spread the documents across his mahogany desk like a dealer showing his cards. "This is my favorite part," he said, pointing to a clause in the trust fund documentation. "Article 7, Section 3. Your grandfather called it the integrity clause." I read it twice, then a third time. "Any beneficiary found guilty of fraud, forgery, or fiduciary misconduct forfeits all claims to the estate, with assets transferring immediately to the contingent beneficiary." That's you. You're the contingent beneficiary. Your grandfather structured it perfectly. Even if Yvonne had been the legitimate heir, the moment she committed fraud, she lost everything. She doesn't know this exists. Nobody does. It's filed separately from the will in a trust your grandfather established in Delaware. Completely legal, completely binding, and completely invisible until activated. I picked up another document, bank statements, Wright Pharmaceuticals accounts over the past 3 years. dozens of transfers to EMI Holdings LLC, Yvonne's company. She's stolen over $2 million, Sierra said. Small amounts at first, testing the waters, then bigger. The Cancun trip your mother mentioned paid for by the company. The Mercedes payments, company funds. That penthouse, she tried to list it as a corporate apartment, but the board, what board? Yvonne dissolved it 6 months after your grandfather died, said it was streamlining operations. Really? She just didn't want oversight. Sierra pulled out his phone, showed me an email thread. The FBI's Financial Crimes Division has been building a case. They were waiting for my signal, which is the moment Yvonne claims publicly to be the legitimate CEO at the product launch in front of 200 witnesses on live stream. I thought about Yvonne's Instagram story this morning. Big announcement coming at the launch. Hajed CEO Life #Legacy. She's walking into a trap, I said. No, Sierra corrected. She built the trap, decorated it, invited everyone to watch. All we're doing is letting her step in it. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom glittered with pharmaceutical money. I counted 17 reporters, 3 news cameras, and at least 200 investors sipping champagne that cost more than my monthly groceries. Yvonne stood at the registration table in a $3,000 dress, greeting guests like royalty. Mom flanked her, wearing diamonds. I recognized Grandma's diamonds were supposedly left to both granddaughters, but somehow only ever worn by one bloodline, Tamra. Yvonne's voice dripped surprise and disdain. What are you doing here? I work in supply chain. Thought I should understand our product pipeline. She laughed, that tinkling practice laugh she'd perfected at Cotillion. This is a sweet event. You're not even management. Mom stepped forward. Tamra, don't embarrass us. Not today. Wouldn't dream of it. Yvonne leaned in close. I know you're bitter about the birthday thing, but this is my moment. I'm announcing the new anxiety medication and our IPO plans. Investors need to see strong leadership, not, she gestured at my Nordstrom rack suit, whatever this is. You're right, I said. They deserve to see strong leadership. She missed the irony. Of course she did. There's assigned seating, Mom added. You're in the back if you're staying. Table 27, the server station. I'd been placed with the catering staff. Perfect, I said. I like watching from the shadows. Yvonne was already moving on, air-kissing a venture capitalist who'd been trying to buy Wright Pharmaceuticals for 2 years. She had no idea he'd been talking to Sierra for the past week. I took my seat and pulled out my phone. One text from Sierra. 11:47, 15 minutes until showtime. Yvonne took the stage to thunderous applause. Behind her, a massive screen displayed. Yvonne Wright, CEO, Wright Pharmaceuticals, continuing a legacy. I smiled, continued counting. 14 minutes. Before we discuss our groundbreaking anxiety medication, Yvonne purred into the microphone, I want to introduce someone special. My stomach dropped. My sister Tamra is here today. Tamra, stand up. 200 faces turned. The spotlight found me at table 27, surrounded by water pitchers and folded napkins. Tamra works in what again? Boxes. Yvonne's laugh tinkled. She's our little worker. Be so proud of her for finding her level. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Mom stood beside Yvonne. We believe in family at Wright Pharmaceuticals, even family members who choose simpler paths. Tamara didn't have the ambition for medical school, but she tries her best. Actually, a voice called out, isn't she the one who wrote that brilliant supply chain optimization paper? I remember it from the Wharton Journal. Mac Wilson, venture capitalist, Wharton alum. Yvonne's smile tightened. I'm not familiar with that. Really? Mac persisted. It revolutionized pharmaceutical distribution. We implemented her model at 3 companies and saved millions. Mom grabbed the microphone. Well, Yvonne's the CEO. She oversees all operations, including whatever little projects Tamara dabbles in. Little projects? Max stood. Now, your daughter's algorithm is being studied at Harvard Business School. Yvonne's face flushed. This is my presentation about my grandfather's legacy. Our grandfather, I said quietly, but the microphone picked it up. Yes, well, Yvonne snapped. He chose his successor wisely, someone with vision and medical training, not someone who counts boxes. Mom nodded approvingly. Yvonne represents everything Kevin Wright wanted for this company. She inherited his brilliance, his drive, and the ballroom doors opened. I checked my phone. 11:47 exactly. Carlos Sierra walked in, flanked by 2 associates carrying banker's boxes. Yvonne's hand gripped the podium. We're in the middle of... I apologize for the interruption, Sierra said, his voice carrying to every corner. But there's been a development regarding the leadership of Wright Pharmaceuticals. Yvonne's knuckles went white against the podium. Security. That won't be necessary, Sierra said, approaching the stage with measured steps. I'm Carlos Sierra, personal attorney to Kevin Wright. I have documents that require immediate attention. Mom rushed to the microphone. This is highly inappropriate. Yvonne is the rightful CEO. Is she? Sierra's voice cut through the room like a scalpel. Because I have here the actual last will and testament of Kevin Wright, not the forgery Miss Yvonne Wright has been presenting. The word forgery hit the room like a bomb. Phones appeared. Recording, the news cameras swiveled. Yvonne laughed high and sharp. This is ridiculous. I have the will, filed with the court, notarized. Notarized by a notary whose license expired 2 years before the document was allegedly signed, Sierra said. Interesting oversight. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Investors exchanged glances. Furthermore, Sierra continued, approaching the stage, I have security footage from my office building showing Ms. Yvonne Wright and Mrs. Summer Wright entering after hours with a stolen key. Timestamp, 3 days after Kevin Wright's death. Mom's face drained of color. You can't prove it. I also have forensic handwriting analysis confirming the signature on your document is forged. The will, properly executed and witnessed, tells a very different story. Yvonne gripped the microphone. Even if, which is absurd, there were irregularities, I've been running this company successfully for 3 years. Have you? Sierra smiled. Would you like to discuss the $2 million transferred to your personal LLC? Or should we talk about dissolving the board of directors without shareholder consent? The venture capitalists were standing now, one headed for the exit. Wait, Yvonne called out. This is just Tamara. This is Tamara's doing. She's always been jealous. Every eye turned to me. I stood slowly. I know many of you are thinking, why didn't Tamara speak up sooner? Trust me, sometimes waiting for the perfect moment is the best strategy. When you've been silenced your whole life, your voice becomes more powerful when you finally use it. If you've ever had to stand up to family members who tried to erase you, type strength in the comments. I see you, and you're not alone. And please, if this story is resonating with you, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. Now, let me tell you about the moment everything changed. Sierra reached the stage, his presence commanding absolute attention. 2 associates flanked him, one carrying a laptop, the other holding sealed documents. Ladies and gentlemen, he addressed the crowd, not Yvonne. I apologize for this disruption, but fraud of this magnitude cannot go unaddressed. You have no authority here, Yvonne shrieked. Actually, I do. Sierra produced a document. This is an emergency injunction from the Delaware Court of Chancery, issued this morning, freezing all Wright Pharmaceuticals operations pending investigation of the CEO's legitimacy. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. 2 investors were already on their phones with legal teams. Additionally, Sierra continued, I represent the true heir to Kevin Wright's estate. Mom laughed bitterly. Yvonne is his granddaughter. So is Tamara. The room fell silent. Sierra turned to me. Miss Wright, would you please join us on stage? I walked through the ballroom, past the investors I'd served coffee to at conferences where Yvonne took credit for my work, past the reporters who'd written puff pieces about the young female CEO, past my mother, whose face cycled through confusion, rage, and fear. I took the stage, faced the audience, and spoke clearly. My name is Tamara Wright. I'm Kevin Wright's granddaughter, and I've been silent for too long. Yvonne lunged for me, but Sierra stepped between us. 3 years ago, I continued, my grandfather gave me documents for safekeeping. He knew what would happen after his death. He knew who would try to steal his legacy. Liar! Yvonne screamed. Sierra opened his briefcase. Shall we examine the evidence, or would you prefer to discuss the FBI investigation into your embezzlement? Yvonne's face went white. Mom sank into a chair. The truth was finally coming out. Sierra connected his laptop to the presentation screen. Yvonne's continuing a legacy slide disappeared, replaced by a document that made the room gasp. Last will and testament of Kevin Carlos Wright, Sierra read aloud. Executed January 15th, 2021, 6 weeks before his death. The document filled the screen. Grandpa's real signature, 3 witnesses, a notary seal with a valid, verifiable number. I leave the entirety of Wright Pharmaceuticals, all associated assets, and my personal estate to my granddaughter, Tamara Marie Wright. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Yvonne grabbed the microphone. That's fake. I have the real will. Sierra clicked to the next slide. Security footage crystal clear. Yvonne and Mom breaking into his office, photographing documents, practicing signatures on legal pads. Timestamp, February 28th, 2021, 3 days after Kevin Wright's death. Then came the forensic analysis, the forged signature overlay, the expired notary license, the fraudulent board dissolution, each slide more damning than the last. Furthermore, Sierra announced, Miss Yvonne Wright has embezzled $2.3 million from company accounts. Bank statements filled the screen, transfer after transfer to EMI Holdings, LLC. The Cancun trips, the shopping sprees, the penthouse payments. Yvonne turned to me, tears streaming. Tamara, please, we're sisters. Yes, I said, taking the microphone, we are, which makes this hurt even more. I faced the audience. For 28 years, I've been told I wasn't enough, not smart enough, not ambitious enough, not worthy enough. My family threw a party on my birthday for my sister because I wasn't worth celebrating. The room was silent, but my grandfather saw me. He saw what I could do, what I could become, and he made his choice. Sierra handed me the original will. According to Kevin Wright's wishes, Tamara Wright is the rightful CEO of Wright Pharmaceuticals, effective immediately. I stood at the podium where Yvonne had been moments before. The Wright Pharmaceuticals logo glowed behind me. My grandfather's legacy, now mine to protect. Mr. Sierra, I said calmly, please proceed with the necessary documentation. He produced a folder. This is the board reinstatement order. Per the original bylaws, the illegally dissolved board is hereby restored. 5 board members in the audience stood. They'd been waiting. Sierra had contacted them weeks ago. We recognize Tamara Wright as the legitimate CEO, the chairman announced. All actions taken by Yvonne Wright are void. Yvonne collapsed into a chair. You can't do this. It's already done, Sierra said. He turned to his associate. Please notify the FBI that Ms. Yvonne Wright is present and available for questioning. The FBI? Mom stood shaking. Yvonne, what did you do? What she's always done, I said. Took what wasn't hers. Except this time, it's federal wire fraud. The venture capitalist Mac Wilson approached the stage. Miss Wright, Tamara, I've reviewed your supply chain optimization model. Would you consider a partnership? My firm has been trying to acquire Wright Pharmaceuticals, but perhaps investment would be better. We can discuss that, I said, after we've cleaned house. Security arrived, not for Sierra, but for Yvonne. 2 FBI agents followed them in. Yvonne Wright I said, "We need to ask you about some financial transactions." She looked at me desperately. Tamara, please tell them it's a mistake. I can't lie to federal agents. I said that would be illegal. Mom rushed to Yvonne. Don't say anything. We'll get lawyers. With what money? I asked. The funds you helped her steal. Those accounts are frozen. The truth was sinking in. The golden child was tarnished. The forgotten daughter held all the cards, and we were just getting started. I pulled out my phone, connected it to Sierra's laptop. The lease guarantee appeared on screen. Before we adjourn, I announced, there's one more matter. Yvonne's penthouse lease, $8,000 a month. My name as guarantor. As of today, I'm withdrawing my financial guarantee for Yvonne Wright's residence, effective immediately. You can't, Yvonne broke free from the agents. I'll be evicted. You should have thought of that before stealing $2 million. Sierra produced another document. This is particularly interesting. Miss Yvonne listed the penthouse as a corporate apartment on tax filings. That's tax fraud. The FBI agent took notes. We'll add that to the charges. I signed the withdrawal letter. Sierra notarized it. His associate photographed it and emailed it directly to the property management company. Done, I said. My phone buzzed. The landlord had already received it. His response was immediate. Tenant has 72 hours to vacate or provide alternate guarantee. Yvonne's phone rang. She answered on speaker by accident. Miss Wright, this is Peninsula Properties. We've received notice that your guarantor has withdrawn. You have 72 hours to... She hung up, turned to Mom. Do something. Mom looked at me. Tamara, she's your sister. Yes, I said. And for 28 years, that meant I had to sacrifice everything for her. My dreams, my celebrations, my self-worth. That ends today. The board chairman approached. Ms. Wright, we'll need to schedule an emergency meeting. The IPO roadshow starts next week. Cancel it. I said we're restructuring, starting with a full audit. That could take months. Then it takes months. We do this right or we don't do it at all. Mac Wilson smiled. That's exactly what your grandfather would have said. Yvonne was being escorted out now, Mom trailing behind, begging the agents to wait, to let her call someone, anyone. The ballroom was buzzing, reporters shouting questions, investors recalculating, the pharmaceutical world shifting on its axis. I stood at the podium. My grandfather's company, my company, spread before me. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, Wright Pharmaceuticals is under new management. We'll be in touch. The boardroom felt different with the right person in the CEO chair. I sat where Grandpa once sat, reviewing the real numbers for the first time. The damage is worse than we thought, the CFO said. Yvonne approved bonuses for herself, totaling $3 million, all illegal. Claw them back, I said, every penny. That could take years of litigation. Then it takes years. I turned to the chief scientist. Tell me about this anxiety medication. He shifted uncomfortably. It's not ready. Yvonne rushed the announcement. We're at least 18 months from phase 3 trials. Then we wait 18 months? But she promised investors. She lied to investors. I won't. Mac Wilson, now officially an advisor, leaned forward. Your honesty will cost short-term stock value. And build long-term trust, I countered. My grandfather spent 40 years building this company's reputation. I won't let 3 years of fraud destroy it. My phone buzzed. Yvonne from a number I didn't recognize. The FBI. Took my phone. I'm at Monica's. Tamara, please. I need help. I deleted it. Sierra entered. The forensic accountants found more. Yvonne set up 12 shell companies. The total theft exceeds $5 million. Prison time? I asked. 5 to 10 years minimum. The board members exchanged glances. This was their first real meeting in 3 years. We owe you an apology, the chairman said. We should have fought the dissolution. She threatened you with lawsuits. I said, I read the emails. You were protecting your families. Your grandfather would be proud. He said, you have his strategic mind and his patience. Sierra added, he always said the best revenge is a life well lived. This isn't revenge, I corrected. It's justice. My assistant knocked. Miss Wright, there's a delivery. A cake. 3 tiers, fondant roses, gold leaf, exactly like the one from my stolen birthday. The card read, Happy belated birthday from your real family. The board. For the first time in 3 days, I smiled. Thank you, I said. But next year, chocolate. I never liked vanilla. They laughed. Real laughter, not the nervous kind. Yvonne commanded. This was what leadership felt like. The video went viral within hours. Fake CEO sister exposed at launch event. 3 million views. The comment section was brutal. The entitlement is insane. Imagine stealing from your own grandfather's company. That poor sister. 28 years of this. Yvonne's Instagram. Once 50,000 followers, strong, hemorrhaged subscribers. Her CEO life highlights became evidence. Every luxury purchase, every vacation, every champagne toast paid for with stolen money. The medical community reacted swiftly. The residency program director called me personally. We're reviewing her position. He said, "Moral turpitude clauses exist for a reason. That's between you and her." I said, "I'm focused on fixing my company." But the consequences cascaded. Yvonne's penthouse was gone. She'd lasted exactly 36 hours before the sheriff arrived. Monica kicked her out after Yvonne couldn't pay for groceries. The Mercedes repossessed when the investigation revealed it was purchased with embezzled funds. Mom called from her lawyer's office. "They're charging me as an accomplice." "You were an accomplice," I said. "Tamara, I'm your mother." "Yes, and you chose to help Yvonne steal my inheritance. You chose to humiliate me publicly. You chose this. Where's your compassion? Where was yours on my birthday?" She hung up. The dominoes kept falling. Yvonne's medical school loans came due. The company had been paying them illegally. Her credit cards, all guaranteed by the company, were canceled. The IRS launched an audit. Local news picked up the story. Pharmaceutical Aries falls from grace. They used her LinkedIn photo, the one where she posed in Grandpa's office, feed on his desk. Caption, "Built for this." The medical board received 17 complaints about her ethics. Former nurses came forward about her taking credit for their work. By week's end, Yvonne Wright went from CEO Dr. Aries to unemployed, under investigation, and living in her car. Mom's arrest made the evening news. Local woman charged in $5 million pharmaceutical fraud. The footage showed her in handcuffs, designer purse, falling to the ground. The prosecutor called me. "She's claiming you manipulated your grandfather. Check his medical records." I said, "Full mental capacity until the end. 3 separate neurological evaluations." She also says you promised to take care of your sister. I did take care of her for 28 years. I'm done. Mom's bail was set at $500,000. She called from jail. "Tamara, please, I need bail money. Ask Yvonne. She has nothing. You took everything. I took nothing. I received what was legally mine, what you tried to steal. I'm your mother. You were supposed to be." Mothers don't forget their daughter's birthday. Mothers don't publicly humiliate their children. Mothers don't help one child steal from another. I was protecting Yvonne. She needed it more. There it was, the truth. Why? I asked. Why did she need it more? Silence. Then quietly, "She was planned. You weren't." 28 years of feeling less than, explained in 2 words. "Thank you," I said, "for finally being honest." "Tamara," I hung up. Sierra texted, "Your mother's lawyer called. She wants a plea deal. Whatever the prosecutor thinks is fair," I replied. Mom pled guilty 2 weeks later. 3 years probation, $50,000 in fines, 200 hours of community service. The judge called her betrayal of family trust particularly heinous. The courtroom sketch artist captured her perfectly. Small, diminished, alone. The medical community's response was swift and merciless. The residency program's decision came through official channels. Yvonne Wright has been terminated, effective immediately, for violations of professional ethics standards. Her former colleagues distanced themselves overnight. The group chat she'd created, Future Medical Leaders, removed her. Her research supervisor retracted his recommendation letters. The Medical School Alumni Association revoked her membership. Dr. Harrison, the program director, called me personally. I wanted you to know we've had concerns about Yvonne's ethics for months. Nurses complained about her taking credit. This situation simply confirmed what we suspected. Karma works in mysterious ways, I said, echoing what I'd heard at the launch. Social media became her judge and jury. Someone created a meme. Yvonne's LinkedIn built for this photo next to her mugshot. It went viral. Hashtag built for prison trended for 3 days. Her former friends posted their own stories. She borrowed $5,000 for emergencies and went to Cabo. She diagnosed my anxiety wrong and laughed about it later. She cheated through med school. We all knew the pharmaceutical world blacklisted her. Every company in the industry received the news. No one would touch her. A reporter interviewed former Wright Pharmaceuticals employees. Their stories were damning. She'd scheduled meetings just to cancel them, to show power. She fired a janitor for using the executive elevator. She took credit for everything, blamed others for any failure. The collective sigh of relief was audible. The Empress had no clothes, and everyone finally felt free to say it. Justice served, cold and professionally. 6 months later, Wright Pharmaceuticals was thriving. Stock up 30%. Employee satisfaction at an all-time high. The real anxiety medication entered phase 2 trials properly, ethically, successfully. Yvonne wrote from federal prison. She'd been sentenced to 7 years, eligible for parole in 4. Tamra, I know you hate me, but I'm still your sister. Can you put money in my commissary? Just $50. I wrote back once. Yvonne, I don't hate you. Hate requires energy. I won't waste on you. You're experiencing consequences, not cruelty. Every hardship you face, you created. I wish you healing and growth, but I won't enable you anymore. This is goodbye. Mom, serving house arrest after her plea deal, sent messages through relatives. She's sorry. She's in therapy. She wants to reconcile. I responded with a family-wide email. I appreciate everyone's concern. However, reconciliation requires acknowledgement of harm, genuine remorse, and changed behavior. I've seen none of these. I'm building a life of peace and purpose. Anyone who respects that is welcome in it. Anyone who doesn't, isn't. This boundary is non-negotiable. The flying monkeys stopped flying. At the company, I implemented what I called Grandpa's rules. Merit over nepotism, transparency over secrets, earned respect over demanded loyalty. Employees who'd suffered under Yvonne's reign flourished. The janitor she'd humiliated, I promoted him to facilities manager. The nurses whose work she'd stolen, I created a medical advisory board with their input. Mac Wilson's investment fund partnered with us. Your integrity is worth more than any quick profit. He said, the company holiday party, my first as CEO, was different. No forced speeches about family legacy, no power plays, just genuine celebration of genuine achievement. Someone had hung Grandpa's portrait in the lobby. Beneath it, a new plaque. Success is built on truth, sustained by integrity, and measured by the good we do. Kevin Wright. I stood before it after everyone left, finally understanding what he'd seen in the quiet, practical granddaughter. "Thank you," I whispered, "for seeing me when no one else did." The building was silent, but somehow I felt him smiling. A year later, on my 29th birthday, I celebrated properly, not with family who'd forgotten me, but with chosen family who saw me. The board, Sierra, Mac, employees who'd become friends. There was cake, chocolate as requested. There were no comparisons, no backhanded compliments, no reminders of what I wasn't. Just joy for who I was. Yvonne would be in prison for 6 more years. Mom lived alone, her society friends gone, her reputation destroyed. The family that had celebrated the only daughter worth honoring had discovered the cost of dishonor. But this isn't a story about revenge. It's about recognition. Sometimes the greatest justice isn't destroying those who hurt you. It's building something beautiful from the ashes they left behind. My grandfather knew I wouldn't seek vengeance. He knew I'd seek truth. There's a difference between being cruel and being clear, between revenge and consequences, between destroying someone and refusing to save them from themselves. Every birthday now, I remember that Facebook post, the only one who deserves celebrating. They were right in a way, just wrong about which daughter. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strategy. Sometimes the best response to "you're not worth it" is proving quietly and completely that you always were. If you've made it this far, you understand that family isn't always blood. It's the people who see your worth when others don't. What boundaries do you need to set with toxic family members? Comment forgive if you believe in second chances, or boundaries if you think some bridges should stay burned. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their time is coming. Subscribe for more stories about justice, dignity, and finding your power in the most unexpected moments. Remember, you don't need their validation. You never did. Thank you for listening to my